made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 316 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Carolyn Boldt. And if you want to learn more about chiropractic office design and aesthetics, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have Carolyn Boldt coming in with us from Gainesville, Georgia, and my co-host Luke Millette coming in from the beautiful city of trees, Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I, your host, Jim Chester, is coming in from Grand Junction, which is in Colorado. And episode 316, we'll start out here in a quick moment. But before we get started, I just want to let everybody know the major premise of our show is to keep free speech alive and well in the beautiful profession of chiropractic. We do support subluxation-based chiropractic and the phraseologies and terms such as innate intelligence and universal intelligence. And with that being said, I just want to welcome Carolyn to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so in regular fashion of what we do, one of my favorite things to always ask people on our show, which I think is one of the things that people are always excited about to listen to, is stories. And I believe that your story is going to be one that's really unique because you are not a chiropractor, but you help serve the beautiful profession of chiropractic. And maybe we'll get some ideas on what you do as we go through this conversation with you this afternoon. But the chiropractic story, let's start with that first.
Meaning, how did I get involved in being with chiropractors or being a chiropractic patient, or both?
Let's start with how you got involved with being a patient, and then how you got involved with working with the profession.
Which actually happened first. So, my daughter, 30 years ago, was 2 years old, and she had developed chronic tonsillitis, and I was in the traditional medical model. And her pediatrician decided that after her having chronic tonsillitis for a year, that she needed her tonsils out. So I was at the time not against having tonsils out because I didn't know any better, but I was against having a 2-year-old go under surgery. So I avoided it. And I know that it was Providence that led me to several chiropractors that began to expose me to children being adjusted. And at the time, I honestly didn't know anything about chiropractic. I thought you went there when you had a car accident, honestly. So it opened my mind to that. And the interesting, you were saying that you were adjusted first at Palmer. I was exposed to a student at Life University, and she was my daughter's babysitter's roommate. And she was a student in her final quarter there. And she was the one who actually talked me into bringing Lauren in. And I trusted her. And Lauren trusted her. And so we went through chiropractic care with her. And the way that Life worked is you couldn't bring your child without the parent going also. So I began chiropractic care. And about 2 or 3 months into care, going through the little popcorn on the pony, Lauren did come down with tonsillitis again, high fever, the whole thing, about every 3 months or so, which was pretty much her rhythm. But instead of going to the pediatrician, I did everything Dr. Karen told me to do and got adjusted more often. And the one thing I do remember is she had to drink apple juice with pectin in it, but no Tylenol. I learned how to keep her fever to a level, without that it healed her, all of those things. Scared to death, but I did it. And we didn't go back to the pediatrician for over a year. And that was for a well baby checkup. And the pediatrician was like, what happened? We were going to have surgery. I said, I'm under chiropractic care. She's under chiropractic care. It seems like she was delivered with forceps. That had a lot to do with this problem. She's now healed. And the pediatrician blew it off. And so I changed pediatricians and started just focusing on holistic healthcare. And that was my story, and been in it ever since, been involved in it ever since. It's been part of my life. I will share this. I actually was going through a divorce at the time. And I don't know what chiropractic saved me from, if you understand what I'm saying. That I know that I survived physically better than I probably would have if I hadn't had it. So, but yeah, that's our story.
So then how did you make the transition from being a patient to working professionally with chiropractors?
Okay, that's a great story. So I am a commercial interior architectural designer and a degreed, et cetera. And I was doing work in the Atlanta area. And in 2003, Life University became my client. And if you know anything about the university, that was between Dr. Sid and Dr. Riekman. So it was not a very good time for the university. But my job was to reduce square footage and because they went down to 10% of their students. So got involved in that. And then Dr. Riekman came on board in 2004. And he talked to me and said, what can we do to improve the facilities to help improve the image of the university? Because it had deteriorated tremendously. So we got involved, and I say we, I also work with my husband, and he's a commercial contractor. So we got involved in helping Life University. And in the beginning, all they had money for was paint, but we used it the best we could to change the image. And we got involved in everything around campus, a lot of ideas, a lot of things. But what that did is we spent so much time on campus and so much time with students. And I learned a lot about what a chiropractor needed to function in this office space, because we did their clinics, we did their classrooms, and began to understand all these different techniques. And but what I also really began to see was that the chiropractors were pioneers, and at the same time, they were always trying to push uphill. They didn't have an easy road. And what I also knew is that most chiropractors that I knew did not have a lot of respectful places to work. In other words, when you thought about, in fact, when we started thinking about, we really need to help them, it was a charity kind of event. You know what I'm saying? It was more like their spaces are horrible. They don't understand that their environment is impacting their success. So they may have a wonderful technique, a wonderful patient bedside, everything. But if the patient walks in and their first impression is horrible, they immediately believe that about the patient. So we began to teach classes to the students in 2010. We were asked to teach. We weren't doing work for students at all. But as a result, several students asked us to do their clinics. And I got involved instead of working in more of a corporate environment, it was great to work one-on-one with an entrepreneur like myself. So with that being said, we got to help them, and we got to see the difference that it made in their offices. And we decided to create a business to do this. So we switched over, we rebranded, and we developed a way to do custom design virtually for chiropractors. And we streamlined the design services. Everything is still very custom, but we streamlined it so that it was easily replicatable and able to do a lot more than, we would do one or two large corporate offices a year. And now we're able to do 100 a year, 100 chiropractors or so a year.
Well, it's really cool to hear that you've had such a cool transition from being a chiropractic mom to chiropractic patient to chiropractic advocate to supporting the profession from inside and helping beautify the interior and the experience of the future patient. And I think,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that is something really important to discuss. And I guess this next question is more geared towards a little bit of marketing strategy and ideas, but I just want to give people the opportunity to hear if they wanted to see some of your work, where would you send them to before the end of the interview? Because we asked for the assets at the end, but I think at this juncture, it's pretty important for people to know where they can go to see some of the work that you do.
Yeah, our website, our company's name is CrossFields, and our website is chiropracticofficedesign.com. And you can go on there. You can, if you Google chiropractic design, you see a lot of images. A lot of them are ours. And we have a lot of things posted all over Pinterest, et cetera. But the images will show you the what you can do in an office. And I'll share this with you. When we first started this, we asked our chiropractors, our clients, to actually develop we call it like a vision board of what their ideal office might be. And we use that to pull from to help design their office from the aesthetic side, because we also very much focus on function and flow. So I don't want to forget that piece of it. It's very much, you've got to be efficient, you've got to be effective in your flow and effective in the size of your offices and all that. That's a financial consideration. But going back to the images, we used to tell them, don't go look for chiropractic offices because you're not going to find any that look good. We tell them to go look for dentist offices, because the dentist model actually changed about 30 years ago. So dentist offices used to just be kind of humdrum, and then they have changed. So, but now you can actually Google chiropractic offices and find some really good looking ones. And a lot of them are ours, but they're not all ours. And that makes me excited, because that's about elevating this profession. And that's where our whole goal is, to elevate it.
So more industry specific question for you.
Yeah.
Do you prefer somebody to have studs and just blank interior, like just like concrete floors and nothing up? Or do you like to work with a space that's already kind of prefabbed?
We if I had my preference, it would be as raw as possible. Absolutely. Because so just to educate the consumers, is that we basically have what you call a client that's moving into a new space, and we call it a gray box. And so a gray box means it's nothing. Like you said, it's studs. There's no what we call infrastructure, which is the heating, ventilation, air conditioning. There's no electrical, there's no plumbing, there's no anything. So it is a canvas. And in that canvas, you can maximize the square footage. That's the main thing you can do. You really can maximize exactly the flow, exactly the square footage, exactly the vision that they have, the future, all of those things. The next level would be what we call a white box. And then that already has plumbing and stuff in it. So you're still having to work around some things to make things work. And then lastly, there would be remodels. And what we tell patients our clients is that if you can find a remodel that you can reuse 80% of it, it's probably a good deal. But if you need to demolish more than that, you might be better off starting out with raw space. So I don't know if that was what you were going to ask me, but yes. So yes, the flow of an office and all of those things really impact a lot. They impact the efficiency and effectiveness of the environment. Yeah,
it's just, I know it's a different type of interview that we typically do, is talking to chiropractors about marketing and stuff, but marketing is curb appeal. It's the first ding of the door when somebody walks in. And I guess my second question is how would you discuss with the chiropractors out there, being a patient and somebody that helps with the aesthetics of the profession, how can people go about getting more practice growth? And do you have any strategies or ideas for our audience?
I do. So I just started off by telling you the different options when people are looking at moving spaces, but we do work with a lot of people that are in existing spaces that need we call it facelifts. Okay. They need a facelift. They need minor modifications to their flow, but mostly they just need remodeling. So one of the things is that you have to understand that everything will date in 7 to 10 years, no matter what. So if you want to look like you're cutting edge, you can't have a dated office. It doesn't match up. It's not the image. So when we work with a chiropractor, we first start talking about what is your image, just like a graphic designer would do, or someone that's developing a website. What are you trying to portray to your patients? What is the image you want to portray? And just like a graphic designer, every font has a different meaning. The same way with every detail in a design process would have a different implication or a different psychology behind it, because there's a lot of psychology to space. So yes, so very much so. In fact, we have one of the things that I'm offering is there's a Chiro Hustle. I've got a free landing page that I gave you guys look. That you can get our free resources. We have a lot of free resources. Once again, that's how we started out. But one of them is, we call it the 5 designer point checklist. And it really is the 5 first things that a designer would do if they walked into a space to analyze an office. And first, it's what is that first impression? And we tell them, go back and get somebody else besides yourself. Get somebody, a new thought, a new, someone off the street or a friend or someone that would be honest with you and say, what do you expect when you first walk in this office? Because sometimes we get too blind to it. And then it goes through different things, just making sure it's clean, making sure it's uncluttered. Those are simple things that can be done. And then, of course, is it dated? And then things of that sort can go on from there. So I'm just kind of talking if you want to ask me some questions.
Well, that actually kind of leads into my question. What would be top 3 design or architecture mistakes that chiropractors make that you're constantly changing?
They don't pay attention to the lighting. So lighting has a tremendous impact on our psychology. And if you walk into, I'm going to use an example. You walk into a space, a big box store. It was purposely designed with lots of bright light everywhere, just a glare of bright light. That gives you a whole different mentality than if you walk into, I'm going to go the other extreme, a really high-end diamond store or jewelry store, right? Low lighting, very specific, all of those type of things. So using light and using variations in light, high energy, you want more light, low energy, you want lower light, and changing that as you walk through the space. Most people don't even pay attention to it. They just get especially if they move into a retail strip center and they get the 2x4 ceiling tile with the 2x4 light fixtures above it, and they just work within that. And it can make a huge difference. So that's one. The other one is, I mentioned it earlier, is just things being dated. And I will say this, you can still buy furniture that is already dated. So you don't, just because you bought it yesterday doesn't mean it's not dated. There's a lot of products out there we see. I don't know who sells them, but there's these chairs that we see in almost every chiropractic office that I know they're comfortable, but they are so dated. And I know they just bought them yesterday, but they are so bad. So it's like, just paying attention to what is, and it's not their job to know what's dated and what's not dated. But people don't understand the psychology of design very much unless they're in it, right? But you don't understand that you form an opinion by they're dated. Do you know what I'm saying?
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle. Absolutely. I worked in an office before where I'm like, wood paneling isn't cool.
Yeah.
And, I've also worked in an office where I'm like, this lighting is bad.
Yes.
And I've also worked in an office where I'm like, do you guys ever think about like getting a steam cleaner and taking care of these carpets, or maybe just tearing up the carpets altogether and putting new flooring in?
Yes.
Because space matters. And like I said, curb appeal matters. But when you get that first ding in the door and you open up, there's a difference between like feeling welcome into a space that's beautiful and inviting, and one that's like, oh, it's just another stuffy front office space that has this really old, front desk look that no one's ever like put any thought into it, how it's designed, how it's positioned, how you can see the person that's working at that station. Like there's so much that goes into it, I'm sure, to just make the place seem more friendly and more inviting. So I think it's really cool, some of the stuff you're sharing with us.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share one thing with you because you brought up marketing, is that just what we talk to our chiropractors about is your office is an expense and the design of your office is an expense, but it is your most impactful marketing expense. And that's what you need to think of it as, is your marketing expense. It's your brochure. It's the wrapping around you as a package. And it's that important. So does that help?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can hang your diploma on any wall. You might as well hang it on a nice one.
Exactly. And the other thing is that design does not have to be expensive. That's the other misconception. I think you're asking me the three things that people, so let me just end with that one. Good design does not have to be expensive. Good design just needs to be well thought through. And we've done a lot of things with, especially when we work with startups that they're going into a retail space and we don't want to put a lot of money into that. We hope that they're going to outgrow it in 5 years, right? And move somewhere else. But that first impression, so we do a lot with color and lighting, a lot. And those are the most economical things you can do to give a big impact to a space without spending a lot of money.
So we already know that you helped Life University, but what are some other notable colleges or clinics that you've worked on that we might have been to or heard of?
Well, actually, I haven't done any work in any other schools. I have taught, we still teach at Life University. I teach once a quarter as a guest lecturer. And then we also teach at Palmer, Florida as a guest lecturer. We do it via video. But I didn't go after schools. I went after the individual chiropractors. So we've done chiropractic offices from 800 square feet to 8,000 square feet. We've done functional neurology. We've worked directly with Dr. Carrick and his Carrick Clinic. I just finished Dr. Riekman's office in Michigan. I know you interviewed him not too long ago. Working right now with Rick Markson right now in his office. So we've done some notables, which I would call some people that people may know, but we've done a lot of startups. We've done lots of husband-wife teams, a lot of, we have some chiropractors that we've done 8 and 9 clinics for. So
that's really cool.
It's a variety is what I'm trying to say. And a variety of techniques, unfortunately, I've never seen 2 chiropractors practice the same way. And that's a sad thing to me, but that is the reality. They don't practice the same way. Even if they're doing the same techniques, even if they're in the same, we've done some work with a few franchises, and I'm not going to mention them, but they don't even practice the same. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's neat to see some of your designs too. I went to your website before the interview, and I noticed that you do a lot with the aesthetics of light and with the aesthetics of a lot of white paint. So
that's kind of the goal, right? That's kind of the trend right now. White is a trend. Okay,
mm-hmm.
So if you go deeper into our portfolio, they won't be as white. So there's color trends that happen that a designer knows. So we're getting away from gray, and we have been for a while, but some of the work still gets caught in there. So the newer colors would be really warm, going back into the browns and the plums and some of those colors that, it cycles. Colors will always cycle. They'll never be exactly the same, but they're going to cycle. And there's a whole lot. I've got articles on my website. So I've written a lot of blogs and articles. I love to teach. So there's articles about the psychology of color and how it cycles every year. And a lot of it has to do with the economy and what's going on and things of that sort.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, hypothetically, not to speak to anyone's architecture or design being good or bad, but if you had the opportunity to work with any other college or clinic, what is do you have a number one? I wish I could do their architecture, or I wish I could do some design for them. Do you have a hit list or a dream list?
No, not really. So I'm going to say something. You brought up schools and colleges and stuff. I have never really focused on schools and colleges. So that's an idea, to think about. I have more focused on the independent chiropractor. If you had to ask me some hit list, I've actually done a few of my hit list. And this is live. Dr. Riekman was one of them. So I've worked with him since 2004. And I did a lot of work with him at Life University. He was essentially my client, although I worked with lots of committees and a lot of things like that. So when he got the idea of what he wanted to do with his new brand and his new clinic, that was a normal, like, yeah, let's do this. So, and he has a great eye. He's an excellent designer himself. So it was great to work with. It's very challenging and stuff. So
I'm going to go back into you personally a little bit and ask some things. Some things. I know you're not a chiropractor, but I'm sure that just like any of our other guests, you have people that are your heroes and people that have inspired you to become who you are today. Who are some of those people? And if you could sit down and have coffee or lunch with one of those people, who would that be?
Wow. Who's inspired me? Well, I honestly wish that I could have met Ronald Reagan. So just because of his philosophies, and I'm old enough to have been under him when he was president, and just really respected him and what he did for the country and stuff. And then there's a designer that I really have a lot of respect for. She actually doesn't do anything like what we do at all. And I have actually been able to sit down with her. I wish I could do more, but she'd probably be my mentor. But she does high-end community environments or hotels and hospitality and things of that sort. But I've just always respected her from a business standpoint, from a business leader, and how she's led her team and the philosophies that she's led. So
super cool. Yeah. I think that there's a lot to learn from that. And I don't know if you knew this little factoid, but Ronald Reagan's broadcast career was started by BJ Palmer. So he was actually a news anchor for WOC, which is Wonders of Chiropractic or World of Chiropractic. And he was one of the first anchors on BJ Palmer's radio station.
I did not know that. I did not. That is cool. That's cool. I'll have to go research that one and look that one up.
Did you know there's a radio station at the college?
At Palmer?
At Palmer.
No. So to be real honest with you, all my association has been with Life University, which has been a rival of Palmer. So I don't know a lot about Palmer. I need to find out more, don't I?
Well, they definitely had a radio station.
And if you ever do get a chance to go visit Palmer, check out BJ Palmer's mansion. Okay. It's pretty cool. It's dated, as you'll probably notice, and the aesthetics are probably a bit older than what you would recommend others to decorate with. And he traveled around the world and got a lot of artifacts.
Oh,
and
wow.
Like the Palmer mansion is very eclectic. And it's, in my opinion, it's very kitschy, but it has a lot of history because, he traveled around the world before airplanes. He was on, steamers and trains and horses and camels. So
elephants.
Elephant.
Oh my gosh, no. Well, he obviously at Life University is very well respected, and we've done memorial type things to him, especially in honor of different. When was 100 years? Was how long ago was that? I remember that, but it wasn't.
It was September 1895. September 18th, 1895.
So yeah, so it must not have been the 100 year that I was involved with, but.
So
I was 1991 when I was going to the clinic at Life University with my daughter as a student, as a child. So been around it for a while.
I believe the profession is 126 years.
Okay. Maybe it was 120 year anniversary or something that I remember. Some kind of event. I don't know. It's been a while.
Well, we're just about at the end of our time together, so why don't we kind of close things out by getting your thoughts on where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years or so? If you had to guess.
Wow. Where do I see it going? Well, our passion was that it would become the go-to for healthcare. And I believe that this COVID has actually helped that cause. I do believe it. I've seen it. I think there are more people that would be more traditional medicine that have become more open to outside the traditional. And I've always felt like of all the non-traditional medicines out there, chiropractic is the biggest and the largest and the one that, so I think it's just become more, I would hope that it's becoming more accepted. And I mean, that was our goal. Our goal was to elevate the image so that they would become more accepted. And of course, that's not all that needs to happen, but that would be what I would hope would happen in the next 20 years. So that's a big question. Not involved in the business of it on a day-to-day basis, if you follow me. I don't know. I mean, I see more and more of our chiropractors are going to cash bases. I see people are making more and more of their people taking control of their health and not wanting it to just be dependent upon what somebody else says that they can do and can't do. And if that can continue to move, I think that alternative medicine can expand.
Fantastic.
But then we have other stuff on that perimeter that is fighting against it. So, yeah, then we get political.
Right. So the website is chiropracticofficedesign.com.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other places people can go if they want to check out more of your work, Facebook or Instagram or anything else?
There is. We have Chiropractic Office Design on Facebook. And I don't know if you give the links away. We have a big Pinterest account. We have a big Pinterest board. So we use Pinterest for our own use as designers. And a lot of our work is on that also, but a lot of ideas are on that aren't our work. If somebody's looking for ideas, we do on our website, we have free resources, which I gave you the link to get them. We have free floor plans. We have the 5 biggest mistakes chiropractors make when they open an office. We have the 5, I was talking to you about the 5 designer checklist, the 5-point designer checklist. That's for the person that wants a facelift. And then we have one that's very intended for the student that's opening, that's like a massive checklist of what you need to do to open an office. So those are all free resources, and we have a lot of blogs and a lot of things of that sort.
Awesome.
Well, I want to go check that stuff out. So I'll probably become one of your bigger fans. And I love it. I appreciate the opportunity to get to know you today. At this juncture, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you were that you wanted to share with our audience?
No, you know how to get in touch with us. We do work all over the country. We work with startups all the way to big offices. We work with facelifts. Do a lot of work with chiropractors that are trying to sell their office and want it to look better so they make more money. They can get more money for it. It's kind of like staging if you think about it. So,
for sure.
Just in closing, your environment, you have a choice on what your environment looks like, and it's going to make or break the success of your office. So we want to be
wise words. And on that note, we are going to wrap up today's episode. Carolyn, thank you so much for being our guest. I know this was different from what we're used to, and we always appreciate that.
Oh, well, it's been really fun, guys. Thank you very much. Look forward to connecting.
Awesome, Carolyn. We'll have a great rest of your day down there in Gainesville, Georgia, and we'll connect with you soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.